Alright, so trucking along to the next Patreon request, and as always, if you guys would like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, where you guys can hit the link below, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, hit the 4th tier, and you guys can start sending me requests for videos to do here on YouTube. But other than that, let's get started with this Patreon, coming from John McKinney, who, if you guys remember, a little while back, McKinney asked me a request to do what if Spider-Man was the Metropolis's hero. Well, in here, he also asked me to do as a sequel idea, as basically have what if Superman was New York's hero? Like, what would it be like if what if Superman instead of Spider-Man was protecting New York? So let's talk about that. So, obviously, there's some major differences. With Spider-Man, it was like one guy living in Metropolis and dealing with a lot of Superman-level threats. Well, Superman is a lot different because, yeah. So let's talk about like what it would be like if having Superman in Marvel's New York. So, obviously, Superman would share Clark would share a lot of turf with other superheroes. Obviously, that's kind of the big thing, is that he would be sharing a lot of ground with other superheroes, like Daredevil, obviously the Avengers, all of that. And the Fantastic Four and all of them. And that's the thing, is that when Superman is in your city, crime goes down exponentially. Then again, you can make the argument, there are so many superheroes in New York, why hasn't crime gone down in the Marvel Universe? Well, it's a really good question. It's mostly supervillain activity, and I also feel like there's, New York City is that's the thing that's always like made just sidebar. That never made any sense to me. Is like Superman's just one guy. I mean, yeah, he has like Guardian and Supergirl and Steel and John, his son in Metropolis, but crimes, aside from metahuman crime, it's exponentially down. Whereas in Marvel's New York, there's Spider-Man, there's the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, Moon Knight, Punisher, Daredevil, the New Warriors, the Thunderbolts sometimes, Heroes for Hire, Hawkeye, a lot of people, and yet crime is really just as it is. But that's because it's more like in the real world. Now, having said that, though, you have literal god. You have almost a godlike being just kind of hanging around. So, and if he was dealing with let's keep it to exclusively Spider-Man's neck of the woods, since, like I said, Spider-Man was in Metropolis. What would it be like if Superman was in Spider-Man's position? So, obviously, before we get into the villains, let's talk about like the world at large and how it would see Superman. Whereas Spider-Man is kind of seen as like hero or menace, a lot of people would look differently at Superman, because one of the big reasons is he doesn't wear a full-on mask over his body, over his face. He wears like he's wearing his face right there. He's in these bright colors, and he's flying around and always willing to show his face to the world. That's what was a big thing with Superman, is that I even love in Superman Earth 1 where they bring up the point of Clark's like, maybe I should wear a mask, and his mom goes, no, the world is going to be scared of you if you wear a mask. You need them to see that you're like us. So that's what I think would be a big factor in here, is that Clark would show himself just like in Metropolis and just be around in New York, and like police department, fire department, all of these groups would be like, yeah, let's go, Superman. Like, yeah, you got it, Superman. And the other thing, we got to talk about Jonah. What would Jonah, J. Jonah Jameson, think of Superman? Honestly, it's kind of I think he would be like, Superman, hero or menace? And get me Kent, get me pictures of Superman. Sure, Chief. I would just love to see, that would be hilarious to see, and I know that happened in a crossover, in the second Spider-Man-Superman crossover, that kind of happened, but, full-on, having Clark, working for the Bugle, and just being sheep, and just, Jameson, bullying him around. He's like, okay, Jonah, I can totally do that. Kent, get your pencil neck in here, and stuff like that. I think it would be a lot of fun Also, I think Betty Brant would be wanting that farm boy dick. You know it, I know it. Betty Brant would be like, Ned Leeds, who? She's gonna want some farm boy. She's gonna want a farm boy. But that's enough about that. But here's the thing: I think at first Jonah would be, Jameson would be like, Superman. Can we trust him? All of that, and then like the thing that would be different is that Clark would be like, Mr. Jameson, hello, I'm Superman. Mr. Kent told me to meet with you and speak with you. I'd love to do an interview with you. And that's the thing, is that Spider-Man in the beginning was always like, I wear a mask and I'm like crawling around and like I don't want to be on the spotlight. Whereas Superman would, Clark always takes the initiative of, I want to make sure that people know I can protect them and I'm not a threat. So that would be the thing, is that at first Jameson would like put out pieces like Superman, Hero, or Menace until Clark would come out as Superman. He would just show up as Superman, not like reveal the S or whatever, but more like come in as Superman to the Bugle and be like, Mr. Jameson, hello, I'm Superman. Mr. Kent told me to that you wanted to speak with me. Well, here I am. And there would just be this whole paper, and I think like Jameson, as hard as a rock as he is and stubborn as he is, would be like, okay, we can trust Superman. Not those other super people, but Superman is really cool. Superman's an okay guy. Like the Daily Bugle would be. The Bugle would be a much different place. Like, where instead of trying to slander Superman, it'd be like, he's pretty good. Fuck everyone else, though. Like, fuck the rest. But, yeah. As for, like, the police department, all of them, they'd be all cool with Superman. It'd be like, yeah, let's go, Superman. But obviously, we gotta talk about the villains. What if, Spider-Man would obviously have a lot of problems with Superman's villains. The same can't be said for Superman having any trouble with Spider-Man's villains. Really, there's no one who could, in Spider-Man's rogues gallery, who could compete with him. And you could say, but Venom put up a fight in that one god-awful Marvel DC crossover. Yeah, because he didn't use his heat vision back then. I'm pretty sure if Venom came at, if Eddie came at Superman with, I'm gonna eat your brains, he'd just be like, heat vision, burned off the symbiote for you, Eddie. You're welcome. Carnage. You gonna burn off your symbiote real quick. Have a good take him away, boys. Superman away. And you could say like, oh, Norman Osborn would be like the Lex Luthor. Yeah, that's true. I think like the closest he would have is Norman Osborn, but even as the Green Goblin, his powers wouldn't as the Green Goblin, he wouldn't put up much of a fight against him. So Norman would have to. Excuse me. So Norman would have to think outside the box to battle Clark. I think he would build like giant mecha goblin suits or something of that degree. Also, Clone Saga would not be a thing. Ooh, excuse me. Yeah, the Clone Saga would in no way, shape, or form be a thing in any way, shape, or form. Dr. Octopus, just tie up those tentacles. Excuse me. Electro. It'd be kind of like fighting Livewire, but really not by much. Rhino wouldn't even like a tickle would be like Rhino would hurt his hand on his face. Kraven wouldn't even bother. He's not a hunt. He wouldn't be like Kraven would be non-existent because Kraven wanted a hunt, and if he tried to hunt a Kryptonian, he'd be like, yeah. You don't have any animal totem, do you? Bye. Mysterio maybe could be a problem, but Superman would probably figure him out real quick. There's literally no one in Spider-Man's rogues gallery that could be a threat to Superman. And I'm not saying that as like a major Superman fan. I'm just saying that as that's obvious. It wouldn't be like with Peter, who would be like overwhelmed by Clark's enemies. Here, it's like, you're all going to jail again. Bye. So yeah, so that's how but you guys tell me in the comments below, what do you think it would be like if Superman was New York's hero? Just comment below, let me know, and once again, I'd like to thank John McKinney for this Patreon request and continued patronage. And like I said before, if you'd like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below. Head on over to my Patreon. You guys can start sending me requests for videos to do here on YouTube. But other than that, I hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.